Jimmy Kimmel may be back, but concerns about free speech in America haven't gone away. Disney suspended the comedian's show amid pressure from the Trump-appointed head of the Federal Communications Commission. Brendan Carr did not like Kimmel's comments about how MAGA supporters reacted to the assassination of right-wing activist Charlie Kirk. He even warned ABC, "We can do this the hard way or the easy way." Needless to say, a lot of people tuned in to see what Kimmel would say in his first show back. Here's how it opened.
Breaking news on Jimmy Kimmel and autism.
Jimmy Kimmel coming back to late night television.
ABC chose to bring back their low-rating nighttime host.
We are in for a monologue that will be a marker in late night show history.
It's going to be in a moment.
Yeah, no question, a huge moment in American history.
It's one of the most pivotal moments in broadcast history.
He will be delivering what is being dubbed the most anticipated monologue in late night in years.
Maybe we should
Change?
Yeah.
Well, the return show attracted record-breaking ratings, despite not being aired on dozens of ABC-affiliated stations owned by the companies Sinclair and Nexstar, the latter seeking FCC approval for a $6.2 billion merger. So much of the monologue was about more than jokes. Kimmel had two goals. First, to clarify his initial remarks that got him suspended. Take a listen.
You understand that it was never my intention to make light of the murder of a young man. I don't think there's anything funny about it. I posted a message on Instagram on the day he was killed, sending love to his family and asking for compassion, and I meant it, and I still do.
His suspension angered liberals, but also some high-profile conservatives, some of whom Kimmel thanked by name. His second goal was to stand up for free speech.
I've had the opportunity to meet and spend time with comedians and talk show hosts from countries like Russia, countries in the Middle East, who tell me they would get thrown in prison for making fun of those in power, and worse than being thrown in prison. They know how lucky we are here. Our freedom to speak is what they admire most about this country. And that's something I'm embarrassed to say I took for granted until they pulled my friend Steven off the air and tried to coerce the affiliates who run our show in the cities that you live in to take my show off the air. That's not legal. That's not American. That is un-American, and it is so dangerous.
And as he defended political satire, Kimmel also defended the press amid recent changes by the Trump administration. The Pentagon wants accredited reporters to sign a pledge not to obtain or use unauthorized material in their reporting, so essentially publish propaganda. For more, here is CNN.
Well, the Wall Street Journal is calling it deeply disturbing. Other publications are vowing to push back on this, and there could be a legal battle in the days ahead. But first, newsroom leaders and media lawyers are evaluating this new memo from the Pentagon and trying to figure out the smartest pathway forward. It does seem that Hegseth and his press office want journalists to be reduced simply to parrots, simply repeating Pentagon talking points that are approved by the U.S. military to make Hegseth and his team look good.
And now look at the cover of this week's New Yorker magazine. After new rules, new lawsuits, new threats, critics of Trump say it's clear the president does not want a free press, but a subservient one. For more, we can speak to Conor Fitzpatrick. He is a supervising senior attorney at the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, or FIRE. Hello to you, Conor. Thank you for speaking to Scoop. First of all, your organization, nonprofit, nonpartisan. Is the Trump administration interested in protecting the First Amendment or curtailing it?
Well, they seem to be far more interested in curtailing it. What we've seen this year is that despite the fact that in the first couple of days they issued an executive order promising to protect free speech, domestically here at home, nearly every action has been in opposition to free speech. They've gone after colleges and universities who are teaching courses and subjects in a way that they don't like. They've gone after law firms for representing causes they don't like. They've gone after international students for espousing opinions they don't like. And now they're going after television hosts for jokes they don't like. So at every turn, this administration is attacking free speech with the full force of the United States government.
Yeah, the Atlantic's David Frum had said Kimmel's suspension was not part of cancel culture. He called it state repression. Were Kimmel's free speech rights violated when he was suspended?
Yes. So one of the central guarantees of our First Amendment is that the government must remain neutral in the marketplace of ideas. One of the most famous lines from United States Supreme Court precedent is that our proudest boast here in the United States when it comes to free speech is that we protect the freedom to espouse the thought that we hate. But this administration evidently hated what Mr. Kimmel had to say, and so it used its regulatory authority to try and coerce the network affiliates to drop Jimmy Kimmel and against ABC to fire Jimmy Kimmel. That's how we got the Brendan Carr statement. We can do this the easy way or we can do this the hard way. That's the government way of saying that's a nice television station you have there. It would be a shame if something were to happen to it.
Some are calling Kimmel's return a bellwether moment. What did you make of the suspension and his comeback?
The comeback was welcome. Now, to be clear, it would have been far more preferable if Disney and ABC, and especially the affiliates, had stood tall for free speech when it counted last week, when the government pressure was on, when the pressure to censor was at its highest. It would have been far preferable for ABC, Disney, and these other folks to stand firm in defense of free speech and a free press. But better late than never. We're pleased to see that Jimmy Kimmel is back on the air. We're pleased to see that this government pressure campaign was not successful, at least to a permanent end. And we certainly hope that we don't see any more pressure campaigns from this administration in the future. Though, given that Mr. Trump has already taken to Truth Social, targeting Jimmy Fallon and Seth Meyers on NBC, this doesn't look like a story that's going to end anytime soon.
Indeed. I want you to listen to something, Conor. This is how Fox's Jesse Waters reacted to Kimmel's return. This is what he said on Wednesday, the day after that comeback show. Take a listen.
This is show business, and this is network show business, where they have the public airwaves, where you have to have standards of conduct, profanity, indecency, news distortions. All of those things are under a regulatory atmosphere that companies like Disney have to navigate.
So real quickly, getting to what Waters said, did Kimmel violate any decency standards?
No, Mr. Waters has added up 2 and 2 and reached a conclusion of 6. But not only United States Supreme Court precedent, but federal law and federal regulations provide that the regulations that Mr. Waters is talking about related to news distortion and the others cannot be used in a manner that suppresses free speech. And there's a good reason for that. The FCC hands out licenses to use the airwaves because there's a limited number of over-the-air airwaves for televisions to broadcast. And so it's important that certain standards are followed, but those standards can never be enforced in a way where the government can decide that what's in the public interest is what's in the government's interest. And that seems to be what Mr. Waters is advocating for.
Yeah, so the FCC, it was overstepping its bounds when Brendan Carr appeared on that podcast. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. The FCC has no business trying to use its regulatory authority to change and modify the opinions and jokes that are coming from a television station. That is the core guarantee of our freedom of speech.
And it's so surprising. Maybe you saw Jimmy Kimmel flag that Brendan Carr tweet back from 2022. In it, Carr said political satire is one of the oldest and most important forms of free speech. It challenges those in power while using humor to draw more people into the discussion. That's why people in influential positions have always targeted it for censorship. How could Brendan Carr make that comment and then do what he did again recently? How do you square that?
I would say that power is a powerful drug. It is very easy to hold principles and scruples when you're not in power and you see the impact that the abuse of power can have on your side when you don't have the ability to wield it against other folks. But then when you are in power, and we've seen this throughout human history, power corrupts. Power gives the impetus for people to want to use that power against their enemies. So I think you're exactly right. The best thing that Brendan Carr could do to look at sort of the wrongness of what he's done over the last week is to look at the statements he made about free speech and about the importance of the FCC staying out of the censorship business that he made before he was on the FCC. And I think if he could stay true to what he professed when he was in the opposition, Now that he's in government, he would be very well served.
Yeah, and yet there might be another lawsuit down the pipeline. Donald Trump's threatening to maybe sue ABC again. We have to remember that Disney's Bob Iger was one of the first media executives to settle with this Trump administration.
That's right. And I think that sort of shows the folly of so many of these companies settling these bogus lawsuits brought by Donald Trump. They think it's going to make the problem go away if, in response to one of these silly defamation lawsuits he files, they pay an exorbitant amount of money to try and make the problem go away. It only emboldens Mr. Trump to sue again, to make additional threats, because he saw that it worked the first time around. But what we've seen, not only with colleges and universities, but with media companies, when they stand up and fight in court. So, for example, Fire, and I'm on the litigation team on this. We're representing the Iowa pollster Ann Selzer, who Donald Trump is suing in Iowa because she released a poll predicting that Mr. Trump would lose. When folks stand up and actually fight these lawsuits, they not only don't have to pay the tens of millions of dollars in protection money, but they don't have to worry about being targeted again for an additional lawsuit because they stood firm the first time.
And Conor, real quick, we're running out of time. What is the state of free speech in America then?
I think the state of free speech in America right now is under attack, but our First Amendment will hold strong. Our First Amendment was drafted and put in place by the founders because they knew that government could not be trusted with power over free speech. So if we had a system where the government of the day could pass laws regarding free speech, the framers knew that whoever was in power would try to abuse that power. But so long as we have a First Amendment, the underlying bedrock that the government cannot get into the business of telling people what opinions they are and aren't allowed to have, that will hold. And I think it's shown by the outcry and the immediate pushback that came after what Mr. Carr did what he did. It never should have happened, but the First Amendment held strong.
All right, Conor, thank you so much for your time. Conor Fitzpatrick from Fire. And that brings us to our quote of the week. It comes from Jon Stewart, who, in accepting the Mark Twain Prize for Humor in 2022, said, "Comedy doesn't change the world, but it's a bellwether. We're the banana peel in the coal mine. When a society is under threat, comedians are the ones who get sent away first. Authoritarians are the threat to comedy, to art, to music, to thought, to poetry, to progress. And the way to guard against it isn't to change how audiences think, it's to change how leaders lead." That's it for this edition of Scoop. Thank you for watching. Please stay tuned to France 24.